The Karnataka MUDA scam has taken a dramatic new turn after the Enforcement Directorate filed what's called an ECIR. That's the equivalent of an FIR against Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, his wife Parvathi and his brother-in-law. The Chief Minister's wife has now made a dramatic new offer. She has offered to return all the properties. She's written a letter, in fact, to the Lokayukta saying that she's willing to return all the properties that were given by MUDA, the Mysore Urban Development Authority, in exchange for the agricultural land that was gifted to her by her brother. But the question is, why now? Why is she reacting in this 11th hour, making this offer almost post facto after the High Court cleared an investigation, after the governor gave the sanction to prosecute, and of course now a Lokayukta investigation has begun, and now an ED investigation has also begun. And to the Enforcement Directorate, this is what the Congress and its supporters are arguing. What is the role of the Enforcement Directorate here? Because after all, the ED can only step in if there is a case prima facie made out of money laundering. Where is that money laundering case is the question they're asking. Or is this simply another political attempt, a witch hunt? After what we've seen with Kejriwal and Hemant Soren and Sisodia, find an opposition leader, jail him or her, keep them incarcerated for a few months, let the matter go all the way up to the Supreme Court, by which time you have tarnished their reputation. So after Operation Kejriwal, Operation Hemant Soren is the next opposition chief minister who is under the ED radar, Siddaramaiah in Karnataka. But first, the story so far.
ಮನಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಹೆಂಗಾಗ್ತದೆ ಮತ್ತು ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈ ರೋಲ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ರೋಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೀ
The decision of giving back or surrendering sites, that itself is an admission of guilt by Chief Minister Siddaramaiah.
All right, let's open this up to our guests. We'll be joined in a moment by Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Lavanya Ballal is spokesperson of the Congress Party, Brijesh Karlappa, Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court, and Aman Sinha, Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court, will also be joining us. I'll also be joined through the course of the discussion by TJ Abraham, who's the original complainant in this case. Let me ask Lavanya Ballal this. Yes, the Chief Minister's wife has now written to the Lokayukta saying that MUDA had given 3.16 acres, or at least had used 3.16 acres of agricultural land, in lieu of which she was granted compensatory land. She was given 14 plots in Vijayanagar. She now says she wishes to return these 14 plots and cancel the sale deeds. The question, Lavanya, is why now? Why is the Chief Minister's wife making this offer now, post facto, after the ED has also filed a case? And more importantly, by returning these plots, or at least offering to do so, isn't that an admission of guilt?
Good evening, Zaka. You raised a very valid question at the beginning of this debate. You said, where is the money laundering? That is a very valid question, because at this point of time, no one is claiming that there has money, the money has changed hands. Only when money has changed hands can someone be accused of money laundering. The 50-50 scheme was approved by the BJP, and she was one among the hundreds of allottees who got sites like this. At this point of time, yes, I agree. Why is she wishing to return the sites at the nth moment? Maybe she could have done it much earlier, and it would have been better optics.
All right, that line with Lavanya, I think, seems to have been frozen. We'll try again if we can see if the line can be unfrozen and see and try and understand what she's trying. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah, I believe I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. All I'm saying is,
All right. That's a bad connection. We'll try and fix that with Lavanya Ballal in just one second. But Brijesh Karlappa, The moot point is this. If the Chief Minister had no role in this, if the Chief Minister's wife felt that she should not be, the beneficiary of any kind of undue advantage of her husband's position in public office, then this offer of returning the plots should have come on day one. These complaints were registered with the governor more than 3 months ago. Why didn't the Chief Minister or his wife make this offer then? And by doing so now at the 11th hour, after the ED has registered a case, an ECIR, isn't that, and this is what the BJP is arguing, isn't that de facto almost an admission of guilt?
See, Zaka, as far as the return of sites is concerned, I would have preferred if the return of sites had been done on day one. And honestly, to my mind, and I've seen the entirety of the transaction, the Chief Minister or his wife have committed no illegality. This is not, an offer, 50-50 offer or an allotment of sites in a different locality is not endemic only to the Chief Minister and his wife. It has been given to 700 other people. So I think the first thing is that this is a purely political case. And, the fact is that the BJP has, very poor leadership here, and they don't have a face to counter Mr. Siddaramaiah. Therefore, they've made use of the governor, and they're doing it across the country. So this is one of those stories. And the less said about the merits of the case, the better. Because even the judge, even while in his 200-page judgment, he only says that there is suspicion and so on and so forth. Can you convict a person on suspicion? Right? And he says
but Brijesh, what is the rational explanation? If you can explain. Just hear me out, 10 seconds. Please explain to our viewers, there's a 3.16 acre plot, agricultural land on the outskirts of Mysuru, right? It's valued at about 3.5-4 crores. In lieu of that, she gets 14 properties, 14 plots, right in the heart of the city in an upscale locality called Vijayanagara. Now, the valuation of that could be 50 crores, 60 crores, whatever it is. Please explain how one is equivalent to the other.
See, Zaka, you'll have to see what the Land Acquisition Act of 2013 says. And the Land Acquisition Act of 2013 says that any land loser has to get 2.5 times the value of his land, right? So, and this is where everything begins.
Okay.
Once Land Acquisition Act 2013 has come, and I'm sorry the Chief Minister's people didn't argue all this in court. I wish they had done a better job of arguing these matters. But anyway, I'm not anybody to advise them. The point is that today the land loser is king. When any...
All right, Sanju Verma is also joining us and Aman Sinha is also joining us. Sanju Verma, the question is, what is the need for... There are two parts to this question. One is the political part, the other is the legal part. The legal part first. The Congress and the other opposition is saying by bringing in the Enforcement Directorate post facto after the High Court has given the go-ahead to the Lokayukta. The Lokayukta has already filed a case on this. The ED can only come when prima facie a case of money laundering is made out. Where is the money laundering? The 14 plots that have been given to the Chief Minister's wife are still plots. Those plots have not been sold to anybody. No money has been accrued by the sale of those plots. So where is the money laundering here?
Zaka, nice to be back on your show after quite a bit. I just have to make a couple of points here. First, the legal one, why the ED has stepped in. Let me be very clear that the Enforcement Directorate has the powers of a civil court since 2003. When it was set up, it was only an advisory body, but that's no longer the case. And the second point about where is the money laundering angle? The money laundering angle is simply this. As you rightly said, that after having been compensated and after having been given 3.16 acres worth of property in South Mysuru, including Vijayanagar, the fact of the matter is that while this 3.16 acre was valued at anywhere between 3.5 to 4.5 crore odd, if you read the fine print, the actual money that was, used by the Siddaramaiah couple to acquire this property was barely in the region of 30 to 40 lakh rupees, which is minuscule. Point number two. Point number three, I think the most important point which nobody seems to be mentioning is, let us call out the bluff of Siddaramaiah. Accused number 1 in the MUDA scam is Siddaramaiah. Accused number 2 in the MUDA scam is Siddaramaiah's wife BM Parvathi. Accused number 3 in the MUDA scam is Siddaramaiah's brother-in-law Mallikarjun. The most important point is this. If you look at the Money Laundering Act section 45 or even section 19 pertaining to arrest section 51, which makes it non-bailable and non-cognizable, the Money Laundering Act clearly says that the Enforcement Directorate suo moto has the powers to interrogate and summon anyone it deems fit pertaining to a given case, even if that concerned person is not directly or indirectly linked to the case. This has been well established in the Vijay Madan Lal Chaudhary versus Union of India case, which is supposed to be a benchmark case when dealing with money laundering cases. The most important point is only this. Sometimes we get into the fine print and we lose sight of the larger plot. We lose sight of the woods for the trees.
Okay.
Your audience needs to simply know this. When was the land denotified? This particular land, which was eventually given to Siddaramaiah's wife, it was when Siddaramaiah was the Deputy Chief Minister. When were the draft notifications for land acquisition changed? This also happened when Siddaramaiah was the Deputy Chief Minister. And when was this large parcel of prime property in South Mysuru given to BM Parvathi? It was when her own son, Siddaramaiah, and her son, they were BM Parvathi's son. He was the number 2 in the Mysuru Urban Development Authority. Tell me if this is not a classic case of conflict of interest, if this is not a classic case of nepotism,
no,
if this is not a classic case of
I just want to
corruption,
underline that in December 2017, when MUDA made the decision to award the alternative sites to Parvathi, the Congress party was not in power. It was a BJP government. In January of 2022, when Ms. Parvathi got these 14 plots in Vijayanagara third phase, again, it was a BJP government, not a Congress government. But be that as it may, there is a whole chronology that goes all the way back to 2004. 1 second, ma'am, please. Aman Sinha now. Aman Sinha, the point is, now the political point, which Congress has been making, Aam Aadmi Party has been making, other parties have been making. ED is being used as an instrument of the state. We've seen in Kejriwal's case, Sisodia's case, Hemant Soren's case, you're simply using ED as an instrument to vilify opposition leaders. Matter drags on in the court for a few months. And look at the observations that the Supreme Court made while giving bail to Kejriwal and Hemant Soren, that ultimately the rights of the individual, the liberties of the individual will trump any section 45 of PMLA.
Zaka, good evening. First of all, let me tell you that the objective of the PMLA Act is very clear. Wherever there are illicit gains of financial nature and there are proceeds of crime emanating from that, then ED and PMLA Act is absolutely correctly applied, and ED is fully expected to come in and enforce and implement the law. There cannot be a different set of laws for a certain set of offenders and another set of laws for somebody else. The mandate of law is very clear. Even in this case, Zaka, there are serious allegations of money laundering, fraud against the sitting CM, and it's a very clear case where 14 valuable land plots are allotted in lieu of one particular piece of land which was not developed. Now, clearly, there are illicit gains of humongous proportions, and it is a classic case for Enforcement Directorate to step in and implement the mandate of the law, which is absolutely clear by letter of law under the Prevention of Money Laundering
But
Act.
Amanji, can I just ask one small intervention? Please explain to our viewers, clarify to our viewers, when you say proceeds of crime, which means an illegal act, a criminal act has happened, and thereby somebody has benefited by that criminal act. That money
Zaka,
trail has to necessarily change from person A to person B's hands. How has that happened in this case?
Zaka, I lost your voice in between the major crux of your question. Can you just repeat?
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat that. So when you say proceeds of crime, which means a criminal act has happened, allegedly, and the beneficiaries of that criminal act, there is a change of money between hands of one person to the hands of another person. Can you explain to our viewers in this case, how has that money transferred from person A to person B? Because the plots have not been sold. If the plots have not been sold, no money has been accrued.
No, that may not be a correct assumption, Zaka, for the simple reason that wherever there are illegitimate financial gains, and certainly there is money laundering involved, and agencies are expected to come in and implement the law. Now, very clearly, if in lieu of undeveloped land, if 14 valuable plots are being given, it is humongous illegitimate illicit financial gains, especially when the concerned party and their family members have been in seat of power in that particular state
Okay.
for a long tenure of time. And this is all subject matter of investigation, Zaka.
Okay.
All the final details that you are intending to know would be clear only once it is thoroughly investigated.
Let me bring in the complainant. Let me bring in the complainant. It's basis his complaint that the governor gave the sanction to prosecute. The High Court upheld the governor's decision. Mr. T.J. Abraham is the original complainant in this case. Mr. Abraham, thank you very much for speaking with us today. The Chief Minister, the Congress party, came out with a defense saying, where is the question of money laundering? Why is the ED being brought into this case? Because there's no money laundering, no property has been sold, and therefore monies have not been realized. The Chief Minister's wife has also written a letter very dramatically to the Lokayukta offering to return the properties concerned so that the MUDA takes back her properties and the case be dropped. How would you respond as the original petitioner, the original complainant in this case, Mr. Abraham?
See, whether money laundering is there or not is a different question. Whether, irrespective of you returning the site, the crime committed will not be washed away just because you return the site. The crime has to be investigated, and the crime will continue to be investigated. And the punishment that is required to be given to the offender, the accused, will surely be dealt with by the court.
Mr. Abraham, the other contention that's also been made is twofold. One, that Mr. Siddaramaiah or his wife are not the only political family that have benefited by this 50-50 scheme. Other politicians too have benefited. In fact, even other people, normal people, have been beneficiaries of this 50-50 scheme. I believe over 100 people have been beneficiaries. Number two, they're also saying that when this land was allotted, the BJP government was in power. Mr. Siddaramaiah was not in an official position. So where does the question of PCA or the prevention of corruption come into question? Because he was not holding any official position at that time. How would you respond to that?
What they're trying to say is DT Jayakumar, Devegowda, then Kumar Swamy, all these people have got sites in MUDA, allotted by MUDA. This is what their allegation is. From what I know, those are irregularities. A person who was eligible to get a site which is 30-40 may have got 60-40, or a person who was supposed to get it in A layout would have got it in a premium layout, B layout. These are irregularities, I would say. But this, the crime committed by the alleged crime committed by the CM's family comes under the category of illegality. Well, how do you have no right to seek any compensation at all. You have no right to seek compensation, but you've sought for compensation and you have got the compensation.
Can you explain that to our viewers? How is it in one instance it's an irregularity, as you say, and in the other instance it is an illegality? Can you explain the difference, particularly in this case? Why was the Chief Minister's wife not entitled to this compensation, whereas others were?
See, you are not eligible to get compensation. You are not eligible at all. Zero eligibility to get compensation. Yet you got 14 sites.
Mm-hmm.
There, the other cases, they are eligible to get sites, but they've got bigger sites or sites in places where it is of more value.
Okay.
But in this case, CM's case, the CM's wife was not at all eligible to even seek 1 square feet of alternative site.
Lavanya Balal, you heard Mr. T.J. Abraham, the original complainant. The CM's wife was not entitled to get even 1 square foot of compensatory land or plot, but she got. The issue is the illegality, not the irregularity.
It's pretty rich, for him to be forgiving of other political leaders claiming that it is irregularities. Irregularities are not viewed as irregularities by the law, first of all. And second, it is ridiculous for someone to claim that Parvathi had no right to seek compensation for the land which was acquired. And when people talk about how CM Siddaramaiah was the deputy CM when the property was denotified, they failed to say Kumaraswamy, who is also under investigation by the Lokayukta from almost a decade, right? There is an investigation going on about him, about the Ganganagar land scam. There is no ED that has been used against Kumaraswamy at all. It doesn't come into play. It comes only into play when the opposition leaders or anybody who is not towing the line of the BJP, that is when the ED comes into play. Just today we saw what happened with Pranay Roy and his wife and how the conviction rate of ED is extremely low. When people talk about, hey, you know what, she shouldn't have gotten the site at all, I do not think they are applying any legalities there. Now, the question of why she is returning the property, yes, optics-wise, she could have returned it much earlier. But you have to understand, as a person, she's been an extremely simple, very private person, and she does not want any of that to affect her husband's career, untarnished career, which the BJP is trying its level best.
No, so the BJP is trying its level best. Sanju Verma, please respond to the charge by the Congress that, look, at the end of the day, there is no money laundering because monies have not been realized. This is the same thing that you said to Kejriwal as well. Where is the money? Who benefited from that money? In this case, again, you have to show the money trail. There is no evidence of the money trail yet because the plots are intact. The plots have not been sold. Monies have not been accrued. And more importantly, this whole question, and you need to answer this, December 2017, when MUDA decides to award the alternative sites, BJP is in power. January 2022, when the CM's wife gets these 14 plots in Vijayanagar third phase, the BJP is in power.
You know, Zaka, you've asked me pertinent questions, and please bear with me. I will not hesitate to speak the uncomfortable truth. What I fail to understand, Zaka, and this is with no offense to you, you are a very seasoned journalist. You keep reinforcing in your debate, when 2021, the properties were finally transferred to BM Parvathi, BJP was in power. When X happened, BJP was in power. What your audience needs to know, and with no offense to you, Zaka, you also need to mention this, the hard fact number one. In 2005, when this parcel of land was transferred to Siddaramaiah's brother-in-law, Mallikarjun, who's basically BM Parvathi's brother, who was in power in the center? It was the Congress-led UPA. When Siddaramaiah in 2009-10 forged documents, who was in power in the center? It was the Congress party. When Siddaramaiah filed a false affidavit in 2013, who was in power in the center? It was the Congress party. But most importantly, this. Under the SC/ST provisions of 1952, 1956, 1958, you do not need to realize sale of property. The property need not actually accrue to you. Even if it has been simply transferred to you, even if it has been simply gifted to you, which is what happened. First, the parcel of land was transferred to Mallikarjun, the brother-in-law of Siddaramaiah. Then Mallikarjun gifted this land to his sister BM Parvathi. That is ground enough to slap money laundering charges was wide section 7, 14, 19, 45, 51 of the PMLA, but also the fact that this parcel of land originally belonged to Dalits, and without compensating the Dalit community fair and square, this land was illegally and flouting every rule in the rule book. There was a large element of irregularity as well. It was
Lavanya will to respond and then Kallappa. Yeah, Brijesh. Yeah.
A quick rebuttal a quick rebuttal and a correction of information. The land which belonged to the Dalit family was auctioned and someone else purchased it. And after the purchase, Mr. Malika, the brother-in-law of CM Siddaramaiah, purchased it. So there is something else that has happened in between the Dalit owners. There was one more owner, and then it came to the hands of
That's a rapid lie.
Brother. So
give me the auction details. Give me the auction details. There was no auction that happened.
I'm so sorry, I didn't
lie on national TV.
Okay, one at a time, please. One at a time. Yeah, one at a time. Yeah.
There was no auction that happened.
One at a time, please. One at a time, please. Lavanya.
The ED is being used by the BJP for political vendetta. That's all we would like to say.
Okay, Brijesh Kalapa, the point. No, no, one
Please,
second, Brijesh Kalapa. The point is that the Chief Minister, in as recently as July of 2024, sought compensation of 62 crore for the land. Now, you may argue that the plots have not been sold and monies have not been accrued. If the Chief Minister or his wife had no intention of using these plots, and as the wife has now written a letter to the Lokayukta to return those plots, why did the Chief Minister seek a compensation of 62 crores for that land?
Zaka, I would not have advised the Chief Minister to publicly ask for that amount of money. I think he had been ill-advised to ask for that amount of money. But I think there is a legitimacy in his demand, because like I was trying to explain to you earlier, there is the Land Acquisition Act of 2013, under the terms of which the value of the land has to be, when you lose land, it has to be returned to you 2.5 times as a means of compensation. So that is what I was trying to explain to you, and that is perhaps why he has made that statement. Anyway, I would not have expected him, if I were with him, I would not have advised him.
And to the BJP's allegation that the land acquisition was amended when Siddaramaiah was Chief Minister, what do you say to that?
No, land acquisition is a central act. Land Acquisition Act of 2013 is a central act, and I think only somebody with absolutely no brain can suggest that Mr. Siddaramaiah brought the act in order to help.
So are you brainless? Are you brainless?
Okay,
Given your
Sanju Verma,
logic?
without any personal attacks, please. Let's.
No, I mean, if he's using strong terms like somebody without a brain, so by that logic, are you brainless? Because this is actually a state act. No, let me finish.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was Sanju Verma.
The Land Acquisition and Rehabilitation Act is a particular act specific only to Karnataka. Zaka, can I finish? Because he made a very reckless allegation. I need to rebut in 30 seconds. The Land Acquisition and Rehabilitation Act, which we are talking about, which pertains to the MUDA scam, is a state act. This is not a central government act, and I'll tell you what, Zaka, which nobody seems to be talking about.
Act, madam.
Can I now finish? The denotification happened when Siddaramaiah was either the CM or deputy CM. The draft notification rules were changed when Siddaramaiah was the deputy CM. Now, hang on. It was earlier a 60-40 scheme, Zaka. It was earlier a 60-40 scheme. It was changed to a 50-50 scheme when Siddaramaiah was the Chief Minister and the land use was changed.
I'm sorry, Zaka, that is incorrect.
Okay, I have to wrap up. 30 seconds, Brijesh, because your name was brought up. Yeah.
See, I'm sorry,
30 seconds. I got to wrap up.
Any personal statement against Sanju Verma, but I'd only like to say this, that see, the law is the same as far as the rest of the country is concerned. So whether it is Meerut or whether it is some place in Haryana, they're all facing problems because of land acquisition. And the new act has 50-50 scheme throughout the country. So I think if somebody saying 60-40 and all that,
all right, I got to wrap up. Thank you very much. I got to wrap up. Thank you very much to all our guests. But we'll see how this story plays out, not just for Siddaramaiah. He's, of course, digging his heels in. The Congress Party, the High Command of the Congress Party, the state leadership, the CLP there in the state, all seem to be backing him for the moment. The question, though, is what about the optics? What about the morality here? The fact that the Chief Minister's wife has written a letter almost post facto after the ED has filed an ECIR. In the eyes of the public, ultimately, as they say in politics, Caesar's wife has to be above board. Will that be applicable in this case, or will that be seen in this case? Because Mr. Siddaramaiah certainly does have a lot to answer for in the eyes of the public and, of course, in the eyes of a court of law.